As you level in Fallout 4, you'll realize that the game doesn't actually become easier and easier the stronger you become, and the main reason for this is that many of the enemies in the game actually level with you, and also because as you climb to higher levels, new types of enemies appear that you never come across. For example, when you start the game and fight your first Deathclaw, you can't kill it instantly. Later on, however, you can. And while these weaker Deathclaws still exist, other ones are added to the game later on to challenge you. These include the Glowing Deathclaw and the Deathclaw Matriarch. You can also encounter legendary variants of different enemies, which buffs them even more, and overall, in combination with enemies constantly leveling alongside you, this makes sure that the game doesn't become really easy as you take your character further and further towards a god tier build. This rewards players by making them feel powerful as they wipe the floor with creatures they once struggled with, but it also makes sure that they don't get bored, and there's always new enemies who are getting bigger and badder too. The higher level you get, the higher level they get, and there are even enemies who will constantly level with you and therefore can never be pacified by the group of perks which includes Intimidation, Wasteland Whisperer, and Animal Friend. Ultimately, it's a pretty good idea to give people a balanced game that's always fun, and it also provides incentive to level up so you can discover what powerful foes are out there. It's very similar to how balance is achieved with gear. When you enter the Commonwealth, you're going to find T45 power armor, and it's not till around level 28 when you can even have a chance of finding that sensational XO1 suit. If level 1 players could get their hands on XO1 straight away, things would get very unbalanced. There are also powerful enemies that are always powerful. Head to Quincy at level 1 and you'll quickly find out why you shouldn't have. But what about once you've mastered all of the Wasteland? What awaits at the highest levels of the game? The most dangerous locations and the most terrifying of encounters? What are the most powerful enemies in Fallout 4 and who will take the crown as the strongest enemy in the game? Here at FudgeMuppet, we've researched the statistics, and we've tried killing these creatures over and over again. We've battled them using multiple playstyles, and at one point we even put these creatures in battles with each other to see who would win. We've gone through loads of testing, and almost every single test showed a clear winner. One very important thing to remember is that we're not talking about the legendary versions of all the enemies, but obviously the legendary ones would be even more powerful. Also, we're not including Brotherhood of Steel members as enemies, as they're only enemies if you decide to oppose them, and they're not the strongest enemy in the game anyway. Furthermore, the thing we can find with the highest stats is actually Liberty Prime. He's got 5 million health points and can cause 1,000 damage using his laser, and 200 by hurling one of his bombs at you. Thank God he isn't an actual enemy you have to fight yourself, otherwise he would be sitting on the throne with no opposition. So let's start at the beginning and work our way through the stats of some of the most beefed up high damage enemies in the game. We've got a definite top 5 or 6, but first, which enemies did not make the cut? Introducing the Hermit Crab. An albino hermit crab is the most powerful one that you can find when you're a high level, and this creature has a ridiculous amount of health. It has more health than any of the other enemies in the game, clocking in at a whopping 3,800. However, I'm sure you've killed plenty of these. I have, and I know they're not the strongest enemy in the game because they're so easy to hit due to their size, and they're also super slow. You can literally just run backwards away from them and shoot till your heart's content. If they catch you, they can do a high amount of melee damage, but overall they're pretty much just ammo depositories. Being strong is about more than health after all. It's about health, speed, playstyle, resistances, and damage. This albino hermit crab also has a damage resistance of 300 and an energy resistance of 350. Hermit crabs also don't seem to have any radiation resistance, so you can tear them apart using radiation weaponry really fast. You can find this disguised attacker at level 61, but trust me when I say he is easily outperformed by our other contenders. Another DLC creature we just had to investigate was the notorious Gator Claw. Apparently this creature was a foe to be feared, but after actually pushing one to the limit, you can see how they aren't the most powerful. The albino Gator Claw, which is the strongest variant, will be found as a level 50 creature at the weakest. It also has a minimum HP of 755 and a damage resistance of 100 with energy resistance of 150. It's also immune to radiation completely and acts very similarly to a Deathclaw in combat. The albino Deathclaw, however, has a maximum health of 1060 and has a damage resistance of 275 and an energy resistance of 400. It too is immune to radiation, and therefore would rank higher than its alligator counterpart. It's also just as quick, and the Albino Deathclaw can deliver a massive 130 damage using a basic melee swipe, and 270 when it uses a heavy melee attack. The damage for the Gator Claw has not been recorded online, but through testing you'll find it to be similar to that of a Deathclaw, and if anything, weaker than the Albino Deathclaw. I'll also have you know that not a single robot made the list. Sure, you might be able to create your own ridiculously overpowered robot friend, but in terms of enemies you can actually encounter, both the Assaultron and the Sentry Bot could not make it to the top. The best Assaultrons like the Assaultron Gorgon and the Novatron Eliminator can kill you very quickly with their laser beam, but that's only if they decide to use it, which often they don't do straight away. So due to their low health of around 600 and their low resistances, this means it's often possible to blast them into scrap metal before they have the chance to do true damage. Sentry bots have higher health of over 1,000, but they can be destroyed instantly just by shooting their fusion core in the back. They also don't come close enough in terms of health and resistances to the most powerful enemies in Fallout 4. The best sentry bots, however, can come equipped with missile launchers and rapidly firing lasers, and they're certainly a formidable threat worthy of mention. We haven't even talked about human enemies yet, and we're actually not going to very much at all. Reason being, even with their weapon and armor choices, they're all pretty crap. There is one strong enemy type, however, who is actually a very powerful enemy in Fallout 4, and that is the Gunner Brigadier. This Gunner variant is level 94 and can be found once you're level 96 or above. The Gunner Brigadier uses a Stealth Boy when combat starts, making them very annoying to hit and also immune to that, and they usually wear combat armor and use weapons like a powerful modified laser rifle. These gunners are pesky, but they don't level with the player, and even with their ranged attacks and stealth boys, they'll still be eaten alive by the stronger enemies. With that said, let's get right into it. Let's find out who the strongest of strong enemies are, and eventually you'll discover the one victor. So firstly, we've got these three creatures that sort of tie. They're the Mythic Deathclaw, the Ancient Behemoth, and the Death Skull Radscorpion. Now the Mythic Deathclaw and the Ancient Behemoth both tend to be better than the Death Skull Radscorpion, and they probably are, but this Radscorpion levels with the player, always, as does the Mythic Deathclaw. The Ancient Behemoth, however, is locked in at level 95. He is the strongest super mutant variant in the game and has a huge 1,900 points of health. He's immune to radiation, but he's only got 190 damage resistance and a small 130 energy resistance. So they're big and they're strong, and they also cause tons of damage, but their resistances aren't the best. The standard melee damage of the Ancient Behemoth comes in at a minimum of 197, and if he decides to throw a boulder at you, that's going to cause a minimum of 146 damage. The thing that makes the Ancient Behemoth even more powerful is the fact that he's hard to stagger, and he can make you stagger non-stop by stomping the ground and smacking the area near you. This can be devastating when you want to fight back, but you can't because you're constantly staggering. These Ancient Behemoths are likely some of the first FEV experiments that the Institute ever conducted. But onto the more powerful enemies which do level with you, let's look at the Death Skull Radscorpion, which admittedly is not as powerful as the Mythic Deathclaw and the Ancient Behemoth at the same level. You'll find this pesky bugger at level 64 and above, and it will have a minimum health of 1,115. It has a damage resistance of 150, an energy resistance of 120, it is completely immune to radiation damage, and it has a poison resistance of 300. Now, I haven't mentioned poison resistance so far because it's not as important, but this is quite high compared to other creatures, and it makes sense for a scorpion. This makes this scorpion more resistant than a standard behemoth, and they can easily kill you as their attacks carry additional poison damage. They cause 115 normal damage with 45 poison damage on top. You can never pacify them as they level with you, and running away from them can be near impossible. They're fast runners, extremely relentless in their attacks, and they can burrow underground to travel large distances almost instantly. The Death Skull Radscorpion and the Ancient Behemoth are the 6th and 5th strongest enemies in Fallout 4. The 4th strongest enemy, however, is the Mythic Deathclaw. This beast levels with you and has a minimum of 1,360 health points. It has 300 damage resistance, 400 energy resistance, 250 rad resistance, and 250 poison resistance. The thing that makes this enemy so powerful is the fact that its standard melee attacks do 175 damage, its heavy ones do 350, and it can launch these attacks so incredibly fast. It's like the behemoth in the fact that it can continually make you stagger. However, this abomination attacks even faster and has better resistances. The sheer force of this Deathclaw brings death to almost all it faces, and even though you're not supposed to start encountering it until level 91, you can get unlucky and actually see one appear at level 75. Now, the third strongest enemy in the game isn't what we thought. It's actually the Dusky Yaoguai. This is the deadliest Yaoguai in the game and has 1,175 plus health. Its resistances also aren't as high as the Mythic Deathclaw, coming in at 100 damage and 100 energy resistance, although it has complete immunity to radiation. One of the craziest things about the Dusky Yaoguai, however, is that it actually dishes out 200 damage with every melee attack. That's more than the Mythic Deathclaw's standard melee attack, and what makes the Dusky Yaoguai even more crazy is the fact that it attacks really fast, using a mix of claw swipes and bites to give it a disgustingly high DPS. If you learn how Yaoguai move, you can avoid these flurries, but if you get caught by just one, you better hope you don't stagger, because if you do, the next bite will probably kill you. It's scary how fast they bite. They sort of just snap or roar in your general direction, and you lose a ton of health. We've also pitted this against the Mythic Deathclaw, and the Dusky Yaoguai won 8 times out of 10. The second most powerful enemy, again, is not what we expected. It's actually the Venomous Angler from the Far Harbor DLC. Not only does this enemy disguise itself near the surface of the water, waiting to ambush those who walk by, but it also has a massive health of 1,750 at around only level 51, and it too scales with the player. Besides having more health than a Mythic Deathclaw and a Dusky Yaoguai, it also has very respectable resistances: 125 damage resistance, 230 energy resistance, and complete immunity to both radiation and poison damage. They're so sturdy that they can actually survive a sneak headshot with a fully upgraded Gauss rifle with all the perks to support it. A super mutant behemoth will die instantly if you hit it with that. The Venomous Angler also levels with the player, meaning it's going to be immune to pacification. They also have ranged fireball attacks and melee attacks, and sadly their damage hasn't been recorded yet. Obviously though, simply by playtesting, you know these anglers are tough as nails. I strongly recommend you check out a video I linked in the description by a channel called Pause Reset Play, where he actually battles 10 legendary Venomous Anglers against 10 legendary Mythic Deathclaws. The anglers wipe out the Deathclaws with 6 of the 10 anglers still alive at the end. They're crazy strong. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The strongest enemy in Fallout 4, the legendary Festering Bloatfly. Just kidding, it is the Enraged Fog Crawler. This absolute monster is the toughest, most badass opponent that you can face in the entire game. It has a level of 75 plus, obviously scaling with you as you level up, so it also can't be pacified, and it's got a massive health of 2,200 plus. That's pretty insane already, but what if I told you that it's completely immune to radiation damage and poison damage? That's fairly impressive, but perhaps you're not sold. Well, the Enraged Fog Crawler has a very nice energy resistance of 350. That's only a tiny bit short of the Mythic Deathclaw, except this beast has much more health. And now to blow it out of the water, the damage resistance of the Enraged Fog Crawler. I want you to guess in your head how powerful you think the damage resistance is. 500 perhaps? What about something unheard of like 1000 or 1500? Well, I'm very excited to let you know that the Enraged Fog Crawler has a gargantuan damage resistance of 4000. That's right, 4000 damage resistance. You better bring a powerful energy weapon to fight this monster, because not even the mysterious stranger will dent this guy with his pistol. The Enraged Fog Crawler also does 140 melee damage with its devastating slashes, and it does these attacks very quickly. It can also jump into the air and come down with both of its spiked front legs, causing area damage that also makes targets stagger. That includes you. The only drawback to this creature is that sometimes it doesn't move fast. I don't know why it doesn't, but it definitely can. It has the ability to sprint really quickly to catch you and slice you to bits, but sometimes it finds itself stuck if the terrain is too dense. Apart from that, there you have it, the strongest enemy in Fallout 4, mainly due to its combination of super high level, health, super high resistances, and high damage coupled with its speed and its ability to dish out area damage stagger attacks. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please subscribe for more videos like this and also to get some really creative Fallout-based content we've got coming soon. We really appreciate all your support and are incredibly grateful to those who like the video and share it. Social media links are in the description, as is the link to that awesome Venomous Angler video. Thanks again, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.